be speaking. We ask you to assume best intentions and be respectful when disagreeing. It's okay to disagree, but not be disagreeable, and ask you not to be repetitive. Michael will call on people so that we make sure that everyone gets a chance. So raise your hand, and Michael will know who you are. We may have to ask you your name so that we know who to call on, okay? And at this point, I want to have the rest of the Corps introduce themselves, and then we'll go around the room and introduce everybody briefly. And say what you'd like to say, but speak up loudly so that you can pick us up.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out today. My name is Tony Bowles. I am a core member of the Safe Access San Francisco chapter, and I have been for 10 years this year. And I really look forward to working with all of y'all on securing safe access here in San Francisco.
My name is Michael Cohen, and I've been associated with Americans for Safe Access for the last 3 years. And I'd just like to say what a real privilege it is to be an activist, to know every one of you, to all of you, and to make each and every one of us a real activist in the true sense of the word. Thank you for coming.
My name is Karen Whitson. I'm also a member of the ASO Leadership Board here, and welcome you all. Thanks for coming.
You want to sit down? There are more seats here. Okay? Oh, yeah.
Hunter?
And hi, my name's Hunter Holloman. I'm a member of the ASA Corps here in SO chapter. And I promise I'm not playing video games. I'm taking notes on the meeting.
We've got the technical crew back here.
Hunter's done a great job for us. He transcribed the video recording we did last time when Clint Werner spoke about his new revolutionary book, Marijuana Gateway to Health. Go to sfsafeaccess.org and sign up to see it, and also to go to sfsafeaccess.org and you can sign up for our email list, but we're also passing that around. If you'd like to be on an email alert list, sign the clipboard and put a check mark by it. If you're already getting our email alerts, do not put a check mark. And now we'll just go around the room and have people introduce themselves.
My name is Nick. I work at Spark. My name is Matt. I'm with Campus Times Magazine and Pennycon. And thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
I'm Steph Sherer from the
I've been smoking pot for 45 years, and I feel passionately about it.
My name is David, and I'm a two-time cancer survivor.
Hi, my name is Maurice Sharp.
Could you speak up a little louder, please? I'm having trouble hearing.
My name is Maurice Sharp, and I'm David's friend. Hello.
I'm Nate Gerard. I'm a patient, and I'm doing activism. How you doing?
And I'm Brittany, and I'm an artist, and I'm a patient, and I always appreciate seeing people standing up for our rights.
Thank you.
My name is Aslan. I have a radio show in which we often talk about the legal issues and causes surrounding our coalition, and involved in consciousness studies, trying to find technological or using technology to measure consciousness and the effect of cannabis on the peer facilitator at Spark.
Thanks for coming.
My name is Dr. Detroit. I'm with the ASA in Metro Detroit with Randy Singh. And I'm glad to be also a member here of ASA San Francisco.
Hi, my name is Gail Whitty, and I believe the war on drugs creates more problems than it solves.
All right.
I'm here from Michigan. I've been smoking weed for decades.
My name is Brad. I just moved up here from San Diego, but I'm interested to see what you guys are about and if I might be interested in how I might participate.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Gypsy, and I used to be an activist on the East Coast, and I just moved out here, and I'm going to be back into the game.
My name is Brad. Cleveland, Ohio. Lived in California about 10 years.
I'm Gregory Lyons. I'm a patient and an activist, and I'm always inspired when I come to ACA meetings because any strike anywhere is always an amazing experience.
I'm Edmund Juicy. I'm the retired marijuana cheerleader. As of Thursday, I was at Lock Hill, and the people from Canada told me I'm the first gentle lady of medical marijuana. I baked this cake from Barack. It's a peach cobbler, marijuana peach cobbler. Put a green heart in the middle with asparagus, marijuana, and broccoli. So take a picture with it and send Barack and tell him, yes, we can cook it. I have two of my neighbors here since Whitney Houston. There are so many people are coming to medical marijuana people. So these are two of my neighbors.
Everyone knows me as Speedy, but my name is Rick. I was
Hey, Rich.
My name is Bart. I'm a native. Yeah. I just want to make a quick comment. The word patient is going around. Okay? The us as a great sort of patients people men. Okay? What that means is we gain strength by pushing against adversity. So keep push on. Keep it up. It's going to come. Right in the middle.
Thank you. Please.
Somewhere down there. And
my name is Gary West, and I'm a organizer for the San Francisco Drug Users Union, and that's the group that I act up with. And we're all for the safe access and safe injection site as well. So we want to irritate Obama bad.
my name is Albert, please. And if you're not sure how good we actually still have the event, watch Reefer Madness. People have seen it. If you haven't seen it, you gotta watch it.
Yeah.
Because we've come a long way.
Yeah.
But the only thing that's changed or not changed is the way it's scheduled. They set it the right scenario back then.
You gotta watch it on me.
I want to acknowledge that I left out one great sponsor, and that's MetaThrive, so I want to just acknowledge that.
MetaThrive, yeah.
Delivered. All right, Tony's up next.
All right, now I'm going to talk about Medical Marijuana Week, which we wrapped up last week, our annual Medical Marijuana Week. So I'm just going to give a brief recap of that because we got a lot ahead of us. So the first action of the week was Tuesday, where we actually delivered a large letter that y'all who are here in attendance might remember that we signed and they sent to Nancy Pelosi asking her to sponsor HR 1983, which will reschedule medical cannabis. So we delivered that to her Tuesday morning. Tuesday afternoon, the core of this chapter attended a Board of Supervisors hearing where we all testified during public comment. We gave a minute of testimony on behalf of the community. And then Wednesday was our candlelight visual at the new federal building at 7th and Mission, where Nancy Pelosi's office is located. It was great. We probably had about two dozen demonstrators show up to support us. They all said something on behalf of the community, and it was a very moving experience. And I think it got us ready for the next day. The next day was very exhilarating but nerve-wracking. So we had a hearing for 3 dispensaries to get permitted here in San Francisco. And with all the hoopla going on with the suspension of the program, we didn't know what was going to happen. Thankfully, they were permitted, all 3 of them. The Green Cross, one of our biggest supporters, included. And then that night, we went and rallied up on Nob Hill where Obama was having a reception. That was very moving. We had at least 100 activists on site. And we had all our new signs that are right behind you here, and our banner, and we actually saw Obama as he was driving by look at us and see all of it. So we're hoping that made an impact, but if not, we're going to keep it up and we're not going to stop there.
That's right.
So I want to thank all of you that participated in making that something special, and that's something that we do every year. We look forward to next year. Thank you.
Medical marijuana week.
On Friday night, it's okay. Friday night, the day after, we had a film night, and we showed What If Cannabis Cured Cancer, and that really was a great film. If you've never seen it, we'll probably show it again. And there's a new film coming out called The True History of Marijuana, by the same producer, and I'm getting a fresh copy. We tried to show it last time. We got about a third of the way through it, and it didn't work well in the DVD player. So I've ordered a brand new copy, and hopefully we'll get a chance to show that again.
Good movie.
Yeah. So, Karen, did you want to add anything more about the dispensary permitting?
Yeah, so just to reiterate what Tony said, let's give it up for safe access in San Francisco. And the Planning Commission, because it wasn't time, we weren't sure how this was going to go. The Planning Commissioner certainly had enough on their plate to vote the wrong way, or at least abstain from voting, or give the neighbors and residents with respect to their concerns, given the current environment. But lo and behold, all 3 dispensing collectives that were up for a permit received theirs, and they are as follows. Green Cross will be located at 4218 Mission Street. This is a long time coming. We've been waiting for reopen our storefront for a long time, so we're really excited to begin that process. In addition, Tree Med, located at 5234 Mission Street, was approved. And so is Mission Organics 5258, and they're basically on the same block. So that'll be an interesting side of Mission. Hopefully in the next 6 to 8 months is what all 3 collectives anticipate will be their opening. So while we're facing some interference on the one hand, I'm happy to report that 3 new collectives now exist in San Francisco, and there are 9 more applicants in the pipe. So there we go.
Michael?
April 26th through April 28th, there's going to be the 7th National Clinical Conference on Cannabis Therapeutics in Tucson, Arizona. This will be the 7th year that they've had this, and I'd like to invite all of you to make reservations. It's going to be for 3 days, and I'll give you a website that you can go to. It's just www.medicalcannabis.com. This is going to be, the title for this conference is going to be Patients Out of Time. Patients Out of Time Conference. And most of the conference will be dedicated to clinical uses for medical cannabis, including the use of cannabis and cannabinoids for treatment of the following: PTSD, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, cancer, arthritis, Alzheimer's, and HIV. So it's going to be a very science-based conference. This will be the first one that I've gone to. David's going to it as well, and I hope to see others of you up there as well. Some of the people that we know are going to be there are going to be Donald Tashkin, Donald Abrams, and Cliff Warner, who was here the last time for signing for his book. So please make reservations. It should be a real bang-up event, and I hope to see you there.
Hunter? All right, and we got another event coming up towards the end of March in Denver, Colorado. It's the 2012 International Students for Sensible Drug Policy Conference.
FSDP!
I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. Colorado, obviously, is a medical marijuana state, so it should be a good time. If you want to check out we don't have the website listed here, but certainly if you need more information, just Google 2012 International SSDP Conference.
And they have a SSDP at State and at UC Berkeley and Stanford. Students for Sensible Drug Policy. Students for Sensible Drug Policy.
Okay, before we move on to our guest speaker, are there any questions about the announcements? Okay. With that in mind, and without further ado, we are going to ask you to put out any medicine that you may currently be consuming. We're going to turn off the fans so that Steph Sherer can have the floor and talk to us about a campaign we're about to embark on called United San Francisco. So please make Steph Sherer, our Executive Director of American Safe Access, feel as welcome as possible. Give her a big San Francisco welcome.
I wish I had a cheerleader in every city. It feels pretty awesome. And that's how people play professional sports. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. I actually was just in West Hollywood last night. I was in Sacramento the day before and in Berkeley. And we all have to know that what we're experiencing here in San Francisco, you guys aren't alone, right? I want you to know that we're having quite a few issues with cities across California. And we had a call last week with stakeholders here in San Francisco, trying to talk about how we can win back some of our power that we might have lost here in San Francisco. And again, I want you to know this isn't a conversation that's unique to San Francisco. This is a conversation that your brothers and sisters are having all over the state of California, but also in Michigan and Montana, just about everywhere. So some of the concepts that we were looking at on the call was really trying to identify why are we in this situation? Right? Is this the first time that the city of San Francisco has been asked by U.S. attorneys for information? No. Right? Is this the first time that U.S. attorneys have sent letters to landlords? Absolutely not. I think we're on like round 7 here. So what's different? And what we sort of came up with as we were talking on this call was that the willingness of the Board of Supervisors and the mayor to really stand up for our community has changed. Right? I know that when we were developing guidelines here, we all had little things to mumble about different Board of Supervisors, but I think a lot of us missed those days, right? Missed when we could call a Board of Supervisor or call the mayor's office and get a reaction. And so what we're seeing right now, it's disheartening. But the truth is, we've been here before, and we've organized our way out of it. Right? I think that it's something that our community, and I think anybody, any activist, they always want a silver bullet answer, right? They're like, okay, here comes Steph. She's going to tell us there's this secret lawsuit that we can all file. There's a magic wand that we can all use.
All right.
And unfortunately, you all are the magic wands. And we always have been. And so I want everyone to really put the situation in perspective and know that there wasn't some billionaire that came and saved our access in the past. It was medical cannabis activists here in San Francisco that created this space. And so we have to reunite. Right? I think that not alone, San Francisco wasn't alone in the fact that when permits were issued and things felt pretty normal, right? People had safe access, they knew where they were going to go. We felt pretty comfortable, right? And a lot of, and the truth is you had a right to. You guys worked hard for that access. And as patients, I think what we've always said that we wanted is we want to stop having to think about our medication all the time, right? That it's our goal to make sure that at some point in our lives as medical cannabis activists or medical cannabis patients, that the only time we have to think about our medication is when we take it. Right? We don't have to worry about looking over our shoulders after we get it. We don't have to wonder where we're going to get it the next time. That's what we've all been fighting for. And so we find ourselves here again. And so looking at the past where we've been successful, it's been through patient organizing. It's been through providers and patients coming together and deciding on goals and creating a unified campaign and moving forward with that campaign. And so a lot of what has happened over the last few years, I mean, I think we all got very excited when we thought the Obama administration was going to finally leave us alone. But what's really been happening is that we've sort of kind of gone our own separate ways, right? Where you had a camp of people that were worried about regulatory issues in San Francisco, right? And you had patients worried about other issues, and we weren't really coming together. And so what I love about San Francisco is that we can all come together. I think the phone call we had last week and this meeting is a representation of that. And that unified, the medical cannabis community in San Francisco can do anything. So I want to give you all a round of applause for coming out tonight and being a part of this. So there's a lot going on, right? And not just in San Francisco, but around the country. Right? And we have U.S. attorneys, surprise, surprise, pressuring local officials. And again, this isn't something new, but what is new is our elected officials' willingness to stand up for us. Right? How many people in this room have called their board of supervisors about medical cannabis? Pretty good, pretty good. How many have called the mayor?
I speak to them all.
Much better.
Be the president.
Well, I want you all to know that if you are not calling the mayor or the board of supervisors, it doesn't mean that they're not hearing about this issue. Our opponents are talking to them, right? And what we have to do as advocates is we have to bring this message to our elected officials and not just tell them what's wrong, but tell them what we want them to do, right? And we have to create the political space to make sure that they can do that, right? And when we only have half a dozen people showing up at a board of supervisors meeting talking about medical cannabis, do you think that they feel like there's some political crisis? Right? I mean, I think that every day in San Francisco, 6 people gather somewhere and talk about medical cannabis, right? So it doesn't seem like a part of a campaign for them to see a few people. And so some of the items that we've talked about sort of coming together, and again, there's a lot of other work that needs to be done here in San Francisco. But to really look at the unique issue, the board of supervisors and the mayor, they don't feel like they have to stand up for this issue. Right? We're looking at campaigns that are going to allow the greatest number of us to mobilize and to make our voices heard, and to have asks that they can accomplish and can accomplish quickly. Right? So some of these items that we've talked about actually during Medical Marijuana Week, they were first brought up to the board. I don't know, Tony, do you want to go through that list from the 5 items that you guys asked?
Yeah, sure. I have it right here, actually.
Because it wasn't, I just want to make sure it's not just my idea. This is from.
And these were actually presented to the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday when we all testified. So, number 1 was to direct the city attorney and all city agencies to refuse any requests for information about our program, which isn't already public, unless under subpoena. Furthermore, it would require city agencies to receive requests to convey that to the DOS or the task force first. Number 2 was to introduce an amendment to Article 33 which would establish an emergency plan to re-permit those MCDs that were closed by the federal government letters that were sent out to landlords. Number 3 was to introduce and pass an ordinance to direct the city's attorney's office to file an enthusiastic amicus brief in support of ASA's petition to reschedule marijuana. Number 4 was to introduce and pass an ordinance directing city attorney's office to join the state's petition to reschedule marijuana. Number 5 was to introduce and pass an ordinance to direct the city's attorney to join ACE's 10th Amendment lawsuit. Oh, and there's one more actually, there was 6. So there was a letter that was written to Obama, and we would like them to follow up with that and go more into detail about the circumstances that we are dealing with right now under the crackdown. And I believe that's all.
Those are all things that we can all get behind here, right? Right. So there's I think that a few years ago that would have been something that we would have, the chapter would have put together. We would have mobilized the next week. We probably could have gotten the board of supervisors and the mayor to sign off pretty quickly, right? But we're in a little bit of a different time, which means that we're going to have to really create a campaign to get that is. Part of being united is that we all know what the next steps are, right? And I know that through the task force, they've actually passed resolutions that support many of these, and that they have gone to the Board of Supervisors and the mayor. I know that chapter members and American State Access, our chief counsel, Joe Elford, are also reaching out and meeting with the city, the different departments, and with the city attorney. I was in a room today and overheard someone talking to the mayor about this issue. So there's a lot of sort of backdoor conversations happening. But backdoor conversations only work if there's outside pressure, right? It doesn't matter how much access you have inside an office if they don't feel compelled to act outside of that office. And that is where a strategic campaign comes into place. So anytime you're developing a campaign, campaigns are not rocket science, right? There's basically a formula of things that you do. The most important thing about creating a campaign is that you have what we call an escalation of tactics, right? So that your campaign is growing, right? And each level you get more and more intense, right? So if the most radical thing and the most intense thing you can do is have 3,000 people show up at a city council meeting, right? You don't want to do that first, right? Because then you don't have anywhere to go from there. So we already started, the chapter already started last week by bringing this up to the Board of Supervisors, right? By bringing this to their attention. But how many people were at that meeting? Is that it? I just wanted a number besides Susan. But like how many people would you say? Was that it? Okay. So how many people would you have liked to have at that meeting? So
I would have liked to start with the people that were on the call. That would have been nice.
Well, so I think that but organizing is one of those things where people need buy-in, right? And I think that's another place where we are in San Francisco, where people have kind of been there's different groups doing their own thing. People have been associating with one part of town, or maybe just a couple of dispensaries. And the truth is, this is a time for us to come together. And that's why we put those asks out there and said, let's have everyone sign off on these asks, right? So that list of 6 things we're all unified behind, no matter what part of San Francisco we're in, right? And now we're going to all have buy-in to that campaign. So some of the basics of organizing, right, are call-ins, right? Having people call the Board of Supervisors and the mayor's office with this list of demands, right? And obviously, getting someone to stay on the phone with the 6 items. So I think that's why we need to really brand this campaign as the San Francisco United campaign, right? So you can call, when you call your Board of Supervisors, you can say, are you aware of the San Francisco United campaign? As a constituent, I want you to introduce these ordinances. We want you to be a part of that solution. Right? So call in is sort of the on the low end, right? That's the thing that we can get everyone to do. But we really need thousands of phone calls, right? We really need to have a peer pressure in the city of San Francisco, because we need everybody to participate, right? What % percentage of the population of San Francisco's patients do you think are in this room? Less than 1%? Right? Less than 0.5%? Right? A tiny bit, right? And that's, and we, but we're here, right? And we all have friends. Well, most of us have friends, right? But we also all, probably everyone in this room, has a favorite dispensary that they go to, right? We all have our own communities that we're a part of, our collective, right? We all have the places that we go in the city, and it's our job to bring this information to them, right? So one of the things that we're going to be doing in Americans for Safe Access is we've taken these items and we're going to make a postcard, right? So it's very easy for everyone's numbers so that people can hand these out. Now, if we send out an email saying you can pick up postcards in a few areas in San Francisco, how many people in here can help us get those out? All right. So that's a basic one, right? So what we need to do, instead of us just saying, okay, we're going to have a few random people come pick up postcards, we need to make sure that we are covering the city in recyclable postcards. San Francisco. But that the city is covered. And so what I would suggest is that part of this committee that we go through all of the dispensaries, and we can do this over email or maybe at the next chapter meeting, and have each person sign up, say, I'm going to adopt this dispensary, right, as part of the United campaign, right? And that means that I'm going to make sure that they have postcards. I'm going to make sure that all of their staff know about the campaign, right? Because that's the other thing that I think that we've got to get everybody excited about this, right? A postcard sitting on a counter that's shiny at a dispensary, that's so weird, right? Never seen one. So what's even more important than getting the word out is making sure that everybody understands the campaign and is a part of it. Something I always say to folks as far as organizing goes is that at Americans for Safe Access, we receive about 700 phone calls a week from patients around the country. When someone's calling our organization, they're usually in trouble, right? They've usually had a law enforcement encounter, their city's about to ban, right? They're in crisis. And it's not always the easiest time to say, hey, I know you're about to go to jail, but can you call the board supervisor, right? But when people are walking through the doors of a dispensary or a collective, they're part of a system that was built on the blood, sweat, and tears of a movement, right? They're not just, but if they don't know that something's wrong, how are they going to know, right? Not everyone searches the media every day for every medical marijuana story. I know that's weird, you guys, but really, most people don't. Even if they're patients, they don't. And so if people are walking into the door of a dispensary, right, they feel like they're part of something that's very normal, it's permanent, it's not going to go away, right? And how are they going to know that there's a problem?
When they've got a problem walking in.
Exactly. So we would like them to know a little bit sooner, right? We don't want the way that the 40,000 other medical cannabis patients find out that there's an issue is when there's police tape in front of a dispensary, right? We need to get them involved a little earlier.
Or on last day, leave it out.
Right. So part of our work as medical cannabis advocates is to be ambassadors of this campaign, right? And really make sure that your local dispensary is actively participating.
You can do this by Twitter. I think we're really underutilizing that aspect. Because people might not be showing up to dispensaries, and this way they have this veil of digital world in front of them, so they don't have to publicly express their interest, but they can just retweet it to thousands of people.
No, I think putting this out on your Facebook, on your Twitter, any way that you can get this campaign out there is a good idea. But what I'm also just saying is that so, the social network, we're not sure where that's going. We're walking into the doors of the dispensary. We're guessing that they probably have some shared interest with us, right? Right? Well, and they need to, or they're not going to be there. So I think a big part of this campaign is going to be educational. Yes, Terry. There you go.
Oh yeah, Dave and we went and talked at the college out there. Can we go to colleges and give flyers out, or how to, that would be a good thing. Are we allowed to table and do anything out there like that? Remember when we went and talked out at the school, David?
Yeah, I mean, I think outreach is going to be a big part of this campaign. When you're organizing, there's sort of a rule of thumb. You have to get your own people on board first, right? Make sure that, like, our biggest strength is that there's 40,000 patients in San Francisco, right? So that should be the easiest group for us to organize, right? And then the next group, right, are other people that the Board of Supervisors and Mayor listens to, right? So that's where, once we have really saturated our own community with the idea of this campaign, then we need to take it out. Do tabling at colleges and other areas, right? And then we need to start showing public force, right? And really thinking about what our message is as a medical cannabis community. Over the last few years, I've seen messages change a little bit from what we see at Board of Supervisors. Now I'll tell you, the reason that we have political power, no matter how this movement has evolved, is the fact that San Franciscans want people to have safe access, right? They have compassion for the individuals, right, the individual patients. And as much as we can put forward a message about providers, it's a very different message, right? And as patients, we need to talk about safe access. It's a much more meaningful message to the public and to Board of Supervisors than relying on providers to have to get up there and talk about how they're providing safe access. Does that make sense? Right? And I know that there's a lot of ideas out there that people want to talk about taxes and the economy and how many jobs these, that medical cannabis dispensaries create. And while that may be a good talking point in a lobbying meeting with an elected official, it is proven that this is not a winning message in the public. It just isn't. And I'm not guessing, I'm not making this up. Go ask your brothers and sisters in Montana if talking about the industry and the economy is a good idea. Right? It's not, right? It just isn't, it isn't where we have our political strength. And so I think another part of us building this campaign is to really look at these asks and build strong messages around them. And every time we're talking about safe access being in jeopardy, that we're tying it back to needing to be there for these providers, right? Reframing the people who are willing to commit federal civil disobediences to provide us medicine, right? Reintroducing this story to San Francisco, right? Because as much as we have had our ears glued to this issue, the average person in San Francisco hasn't been paying attention, right? All they know is that they've seen some crazy stories. So we have to figure out a way that we're also going to get the public outreach and want to see that the Board of Supervisors and the mayor standing up. So we talked about basic call-in, right? What are some other ways we can get the Board of Supervisors' attention that are legal? Yes, dear.
Non-patients, parents, friends, colleagues that support us.
That's right.
Have them get involved to support us.
You're right. That's a very, did everyone hear that? So that having friends and family members of patients come out and support. And I think that's very moving because a lot of, people act differently in politics. They act because either they empathize with someone or they sympathize with someone, right? And for sympathy, they might not sympathize with patients, right? Because they're not ill. They don't know what we're facing, right? They don't know the struggles that we're going through. But if someone hears someone that gets up and talks about their sister, right, or their cousin, or their best friend who they've watched struggle, then all of a sudden someone's like, oh, I have a sister with cancer, or oh, I have a family member, and how would I feel if they didn't have safe access? It's a great point. Yes, right here.
I was wondering, I know you talked about the economy, but marijuana is either the first or second largest cash crop in this country. And wouldn't it be a good idea to point out that a lot of our economic problems could be solved by legalizing it?
You would think so. You would think so, right? But the truth is that we're not quite there yet in the society. And as bad as the economy gets, most Americans do not want to put Americans back to work growing pot. It's just not the solution they want. But I understand what you're saying and why you would think that. But But after working on this issue for 10 years and really working with different messages, that just isn't one that moves people. Not yet. Right here?
Find somebody who's persuasive to the board of supervisors, either a financial person, a backer, or somebody who's just important to them. Like, for example, Mike here in Detroit got the retired police chief to say he was in favor of legalizing marijuana. And he said in his talk, no one had ever asked him before, but now that Mike asked him and he spoke in front of a large group of people saying it, then that becomes a very persuasive person, and it got a lot of attention in the papers. So I'm not sure how you find out who the influentials that haven't already influenced the board, but maybe there is somebody who could help us.
Well, it sounds like as we're kind of putting this together, sort of hearing some natural committees that I think we're going to need to form here. So we'll keep that in mind.
Another thing is, get involved in the supervisors' re-election campaign, especially the progressive supervisors who are solidly with us, but have been, they need to lead instead of just, we could get involved in the re-election campaign of the progressive supervisors and be right there as their core supporters in their campaign meetings. I went to Avalos' last fundraiser. Eric Marr needs help and is very progressive. And all we need is at least one champion from within the progressive camp. We pick up one or two of the moderates, and we have the majority of the bandwidth, and it's somehow lost.
That's a very good point. I mean, I think that as activists, you know, we sometimes, we're always looking at the immediate and not looking at the long term. And does it make a difference if board of supervisors support you or not?
Yes.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference, right? And how are these supervisors going to support you? You have to be visible, right? You have to be present. And it's not, I mean, I think a lot of times people say, oh, you know, politicians have to buy them off. That's not the way it works, right? I mean, I think that engaging in politics isn't that black or white. And it means that you're building a team, right? And if someone's going through a re-election, they're going to need your help. Not just writing checks, but showing up, being present, right? It means a lot to us, right, when people outside of our circles show up and support us. It feels the same way for an elected official.
Just something you said something about not everybody can get behind the support of patients themselves. And I look at this as there is the cannabis issue, but the larger, sort of from the macro view, it can be viewed as a states versus federal issue, regardless of what the issue is. And that's something that everybody can connect with, particularly in San Francisco. And I wonder if has been any discussion about having because there may be 20,000 registered patients, but how many people know of pot smoking in San Francisco? Virtually everybody, right? So imagine if all of the cannabis collectives sort of had a petition going out to say we have this many patients and this many community supporters, because those community supporters equal votes.
So looking at taking these asks and doing a petition. Petition's another good way to show support. Karen, shake your hand over.
No, I'm good.
You're good? Yes, you are.
About a media campaign showing the famous people and histories that used it and tried to remove the stigmatism. I mean, our founding fathers came from England and all, and Franklin has a treatise on medical marijuana, so does Queen Victoria. Jefferson, Washington grew it, and specifically he requested the female plant from Mount Vernon. And there's only one use for female plants.
Yeah, I think that there is. I mean, there's definitely an education, right, of whether you're talking about your founding fathers, but also what the average medical cannabis patient looks like in San Francisco, right? They need to see more faces, more. Again, so there is a larger number of people that people are empathizing with and sympathizing with, right? And that means turning out more people, right? It means making a commitment to each other and the community that you're all going to show up, right? So, Karen, do you want to talk a little bit about what happened at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, or what you guys are thinking about as far as the next time to turn out and what that message will look like?
I mean, people can turn out every Tuesday. Public comment is open, and the supervisors are are primed and prepped to hear us. At this point, ASA advocates have met with every single Board of Supervisors, and we're particularly putting pressure on our newest supervisor, Ms. Christina Olagi. She has the ear of the mayor, and we're putting some pretty heavy force onto her, as well as Board President David Chu. Both have the immediate ear of the mayor, and so we've been focusing efforts sort of directed at that office. At the last Boards of Supervisor meeting during public comment, I know Greg was there. Our infamous Edmund marijuana cheerleader was also there, and several others whom I don't see today here, but there were about a dozen of us, in addition to some Axis of Love advocates who all got up and on Valentine's Day sort of delivered these messages in what seemed to be a very clear voice. Following that meeting, we had an immediate fight from Supervisor Campos and Supervisor Avalos. Had both responded with some indication that they were interested. However, Campos is driving efforts towards the mayor, and so that's why we are now going to be sort of redirecting some of our efforts towards the mayor's office and to the city attorney's office. But that doesn't let the boards of supervisors off the hook. The way Campos is approaching this is he feels like they've done what they needed to do, that they said a public statement, but that a public statement is the least action a member of an elected body can take. The absolute least action an elected official can take is to comment to the press. So there is a lot more this board can do, and we shouldn't let them off the hook. We need to be there. We need to be asking them to take action, because in addition to us pressuring the mayor, if he's hearing from people he has to deal with on other issues day in and day out, it's going to make the mayor's life insane. So the goal is to, in a trifecta, approach the board, approach the mayor, and approach the city attorney in a concerted effort to get someone somewhere to bite on one of these 6 asks. So that's it.
Do you want to add anything? Yeah, the San Francisco Medical Cannabis Task Force, myself and other members has also met with every single member of the board of supervisors and have meetings planned set up for this week and next week. We also passed an emergency resolution and wrote a very, very stern letter that we sent out to every single city department, board of supervisors, the mayor, followed up by lots and lots of phone calls. We have several issues that are going on top of, I guess, the most obvious, which is the federal interference with local and state laws and the inability of our board of supervisors to get a backbone and stand up. We do, though, even though, we're not seeing a lot of action, we do have allies on the board of supervisors. So if they really hear from the San Francisco community that 1, we're unified, 2, our asks are very concise and there's clear solutions, and they hear from us often, and all of this accumulates maybe to a bigger action in San Francisco in 3 weeks, and every single dispensary facility out of the 27 that are here in San Francisco, if every single one of those guys turned out 5 people to an action, you would be in really good shape. So that's what's going on. We do have board of supervisors that are interested in taking up these asks. The Medical Cannabis Task Force will sign on to whatever the San Francisco campaign letter looks like, and we will also continue to try to secure a board of supervisor to push these asks forwards, and I'm in conversations with several right now who are interested. So I think progress is being made.
Thank you. So what do you guys think about, I hear what Karen's saying as far as, there's a board of supervisors meeting every Tuesday, right? But sometimes if you say to someone every Tuesday, that gets dissipated, right? So I'm wondering what people think about, just throwing out some different ideas about how either we can
Okay, sorry.
Oh, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think we've touched on that before. That, yeah, they happen every week, but getting out to every meeting every week is a little difficult. And if we had a more concerted effort, like in 3 weeks or so, because I don't know how far along the MCDs that were on the phone call have come in getting those 5 patients as well, so give them some time. I think that's a great idea. I also wanted to touch on this woman who said doing outreach to law enforcement, getting them, I think coalition building in general is something, reaching out to medical organizations, maybe getting a sign-on letter, so maybe we can get a coalition building breakout group or whatever set up.
Yeah, and if you want people to come, okay, the word every should be replaced with any. If you say every Tuesday, you have to update every. If you say any Tuesday, oh, I do any Tuesday I want.
Right, so that's a good point.
Good point. It's all how you word it.
So what do people think about, here's kind of a proposal out there, what do people think about picking a board of supervisors meeting or 3 weeks from now? We'll have a calendar. I mean, let's like, we're going to organize this campaign tonight, so.
I think that in addition to, maybe we do a rally and a big event at a board of supervisors meeting in 3 weeks with the goal of trying to get one of these 6 asks also introduced, not just the resolution, but one of the legislative solutions. But I also wanted to put out there that in addition to targeting our mayor and board of supervisors, Kamala Harris is really, really tight with Obama. And I think that we should be really also focusing our efforts on getting a letter and a message to her to continue to talk to about this issue, because ultimately he could stop it tomorrow. So.
Well, let's stick to this campaign right now, right here first, and then you know, there's plenty that we can do, and there's you know, we always want letters going to Obama, but we have sort of a short-term fight here that we've got to put ourselves back.
We got to reach every one of us. If we don't have us, how can we go anywhere else? We can't. So we need to come up with a suggestion and an idea or a fun event, something to gather us together at one place and talk about the seriousness of what's going to happen or what's happening. A lot of us read the newspaper, watch the TV and all that, but I don't think the 80% of people out there is aware. You know, oh, I can go to this place, fine, but they don't know if this place is going to be shut down or not. And then next thing you know, they are in trouble.
Right. No, you're right.
You know, so I think we need to reach us first. We know who smokes.
Right. Right.
I missed the go-around. I'm Brian Webster. I'm a community organizer. I work with the Instituto Workers Resource Center and with UFCW 5. You might want to give them a scorecard or a report card. So you got 12 supervisors, 6 asks. So if you tell them you're going to keep track, and you're going to give each one of them a report card. So if they agree to 2 of the asks and they take action on it, then they're failing. If they agree to 3 and take action, then they get a C. Okay, if they take, action on 4 of them, then they get a B. If they take action on 5, then they get an A. If they take all 6, then they get an A+. So you
and a ticket to heaven, right?
Well, then they get to say, it's a report card. So then, and then you can take that report card to their re-election campaign. It's something that they can put it up on your website, publicize it, whatever. But that's how you can keep track of these 12 people, 6 asks, and what's their position? What's their position? What have they done?
Yeah, I like that idea. I like that as a visual to have, at outside of the board of supervisors saying, right now you guys are all Fs. We're watching. We're watching. Yes.
Be reminding the board of supervisors and mayors that patients vote and that they're alienating a very large voter base is important. And it would be kind of cool. I don't know how we might be able to do this, but if we could identify how many patients per district, that would be, I don't know, because in District 6 has at least probably 80,000 patients in it, and District 5 probably has at least be 60,000 patients.
I think one of the ways that we can do that is having every dispensary have an area where people can call their board of supervisor right there, right? And that there is a conversation, that there's an expectation of activism, right? I think that's something that has changed in our community. That before like if you weren't seen at a rally, right, it meant something, right? Like you didn't really care that much. And I think that, and there was sort of this more of a peer pressure environment where, I'm not just doing this for my medicine, I'm doing it for all of our medicine, right? You should show up, you should be there. But again, I think that one of the challenges with campaigns is getting everyone on the same page, and then having actions that everyone can do so that it's felt at the city council. So a way that a board of supervisor is going to know how many patients are in their district is when their phone will not stop ringing for an entire week, right? That the staff is rolling their eyes, like, I do not want to talk to another patient, right? That is where we gain power. One of my mentors told me once, there's two ways you can have power in politics. One is having money, which I'm still working on. And the second is to be annoying, right? And with a little bit of both, you're golden, right? So annoying people think that's a negative word, right? But you want the board of supervisors to have to feel like they have to do something on this list, or they're not going to stop hearing from us, right? And then it's going to keep building and keep building, right? So there is what happens in their offices, which is us calling, but then there's also visibility. Right? There's them showing up to work, knowing that there's going to be a board of supervisors meeting, and there's a picket outside, a medical cannabis patient saying, are you going to stand up for us today? Right? And they don't have to, again, like you don't have to put all of your eggs in one basket, focus on one action, hope that that's what happens. What we really need to do is start building up a pressure campaign, right? So do people think that we could mobilize 500 patients in 3 weeks?
Yes.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, I'm serious. Like, mobilizing 500 patients 3 or 4 years ago was not hard. But I'm asking people realistically right now, do you think that this community can organize 500 patients?
I say no.
To do what? I think it can be done.
To come to a rally, to show up.
I don't think.
Yeah, you gotta really.
One person at a time.
Good.
I have a question of you, Steph, as you get exposure nationally and across the state. Has it been a falling off of volunteerism for a variety of projects? I've heard reports that there's been a falling off of the level of volunteerism. And that could account for the difficulty in getting 100 people mobilized, let alone 500.
That's a good question, and I think, and part of it, we're actually starting to see more people come back, right? Reality is that when people feel comfortable, right, and they feel like access is in front of them, they don't feel a crisis. They don't feel like they need to come out, right? And so I think that something that was a challenge for Americans for Safe Access is that people, when the Ogden memo came out, people across the country are like, we won. I'm like, did you guys read the same memo I read? Because we did not win. We did not come near winning. We just feel excited because an administration said something semi-positive about us, right? That is not victory. And if that's victory, that's pretty sad. But so for all of 2009, 2010, a lot of our work in Americans for Safe Access was reminding people, like, this is not over. And yes, we did